Okay, so I wanted to get started asking about the development of the film. What was the inspiration and really creating the script for the film, and what was that process of like of really getting the story together for the film?
Well, a lot of the stories come from my own family experience. Uh, Violence against Indigenous women is something that's affected my family. Growing up in a country area in New South Wales, in Australia, and I had planned to write a story about a cold case for a few years because a cousin, actually my mother's first cousin, she was found murdered under a roadway, on an isolated roadway, about 20 years ago, and the police response was very slow, and the family actually were the only ones looking for her when she went missing, and the family actually found her, and um, after searching for about 3 or 4 days, they just found her by accident, really, under a roadway. And the slow police response continued for weeks and months, and then and then for a few years, and then until the police actually were under fire by the media, and then they actually tried to do um, something about it, but it all came too late. And so this kind of real life story influenced the whole script of Limbo, where we have a very similar situation with a cold case review, where Simon's character Travis arrives in this town 20 years later to do a review on this missing Indigenous girl. And, so basically that was the kind of setup of the story, and the family characters were very similar to a lot of my own family, and the trauma and the dysfunction that created within the family, and disconnection, and combine that with good old Cooper Pedy, this incredible underground town in the outback of New South Wales, where half the people live underground. And basically, we put these two things together, and that's where the script kind of came from. And yeah, we just Simon on board, and the script evolved a lot when Simon came onto the film, and yeah, we went out and shot it, and there you go.
And I also wanted to ask you about how you became involved in starring in the film, and what was it about the script and the character of Travis that you really were drawn to and wanted to play the character as well.
Ivan and I had met many years ago, about another film that didn't come about, and then I don't know, it was about a year before we started shooting, I think. I got sent a script of his, and I was very curious about Ivan as a filmmaker, because he wears a lot of hats, and he writes, directs, edits, does the sound design and the score, and so I was really interested in working with him. He sent me the script. I liked the story, and I liked his sort of point of view of that story, of that kind of, in essence, there's a genre element to it as far as the procedural element of a cold case, but within that, he's woven a lot of real interesting and truthful perspective on the injustice, of the legal system in Australia in regards to Indigenous Australians. And we played around with the script a little bit and with the character, and kind of it just sort of evolved from there. But that was pretty much it. I think it was me reading the script, and then it was the first conversation with Ivan, and it was like, okay, well, let's go.
So I wanted to ask you, Ivan, about directing the film and what that approach was like for you going from writing the script and to directing on set as well.
Um, well, it was pretty easy because I had Simon, who I had a lot of trust in, and that kind of freed me up to really focus on what I was doing. And watching Simon work within the context of the scene and feeling what he's doing and that kind of impacting how I would show that with the camera and how I would actually edit it as well. And the thing about Simon, it's hard to cut away from him. You just want to let that continuity of that time and space kind of just flow, and for as long as you can, really. And so, I mean, it was a quick shoot, and everything kind of came together pretty well. Very happy with how things turned out. It's this film, usually when I make a film, it's not as easy as this one. I think because I'd made two other films they were kind of police stories set in the outback, and I'd been down in this territory before, and I felt like I've known it quite well. But with this film, I was doing things a lot differently in how I was showing it with the camera, and so yeah, I think we had a lot of wind. It was a very windy place, and that was something we had to deal with, and had an incredible kind of community that we were working with, local Indigenous community and multicultural community as well in that town. Cooper Pedy it's a mining town which has got a lot of people from Europe who had settled there after the war, and about four Indigenous nations kind of intersecting there. So it's a very rich area culturally.
Speaking about the location, also wanted to ask you both about that experience and filming on that location and how you approached really being on location there and really how that influenced the storytelling as well throughout the production.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique part of the world, and that, well, any place really has a feeling, doesn't it? Like every place that you go to has a feeling, and some places the feeling's stronger than others, and I think Cooper Pedy has a very strong feeling about it, and it's an odd feeling because it's a mining town. It's the country itself has been attacked. Really, it's just thousands and thousands of there'll be millions of holes in the ground. So it's a sort of a weirdly a kind of it's a man-made almost landscape. It's been that impacted by the search, really. It's just all people searching for something, searching for a shiny rock, and that's which creates a strange energy as well. Like looking for luck. Like it's quite bizarre. But I'm quite sensitive to place and it impacting me. So when I got there, it did have an impact on me, and the spaciousness of the place as well, in contrast to being underground in caves.
Also, going back to the cinematography and how you visually shot the film, while I was watching it, I like that aspect of the story as well, and wanted to ask a little bit more about that and collaborating with your cinematographer and really figuring out how you wanted to shoot the film as well.
Yeah, my cinematographer, I had to kind of get my ideas
He's the cinematographer too.
Yeah. I shoot everything I do. I shoot and edit as well, usually. So for me, it's all kind of connected. You know, you're writing it, and then you find the location and visualize it, and then you go back to writing, and then you get actors involved, and then you evolve the script more, and it's just this big organic kind of thing that starts coming from nothing, really. And I think that the cinematography was there from the beginning as well. So I knew that location had very strong color, but ultimately it came down to eliminating that color and allowing the audience to focusing on the story without that emotional distraction of color, because the ground is really red and very strong colors, which we are very used to seeing coming from Australia. You know, this incredible red dirt, and with that comes an emotion, and it's a warmth that I felt didn't quite match with this story and how I wanted to tell it. And so black and white lends itself very well to Cooper Pedy. It's very strong contrast out there. You've got a very white ground, and you've got the darkness of the mine shafts and the caves and everything in between. And the white dust seems to just float when the wind blows. So you've got this kind of white haze, a white fog, which is kind of there from the dust. And it just felt right in the end. I mean, you can talk, but in the end, for me, it's just about feeling. You know, it's the feeling, and that feeling actually comes from a willingness to listen to the work and to feel the work, and it just felt right in the end.
Also, what was the experience like on set working with the rest of the cast and building those relationships between the characters and really working with the other actors to determine how you wanted to approach the storytelling through the characters as well?
That's you, mate.
So, I think the other cast were similar to Simon. I think they really were affected by the environment. And I mean, Rob Collins, who plays Charlie, the brother of the missing girl, I mean, we put him out in a caravan in the middle of nowhere and this isolated kind of hill. And it was very easy for him to fall into his situation as a character there, because he's just alone. You know, there's nothing there. He's there with the wind and the dust and the dingoes, the wild dogs, and kind of similar with Natasha Wanganeen as well. She kind of fell into the pace of that small town, and the children that were cast actually live in Cooper Pedy, so they come loaded up already, and they have very strong accents, a very strong kind of energy, which comes from growing up within the dust out there. And so I think that location kind of tied all the characters and the actors kind of together, tied them in a line, connected them.
I wanted to ask you both about producing the film as well, and what that approach was like on set, in addition to directing and starring in the film, also producing as
well. I mean, as a producer, I work with, I think we had 3 producers on the film. So I only kind of really get involved in that side of things kind of when I need to, and especially early on when we're financing, I go to meetings with investors, and but a lot of that I kind of leave up to the other producers a lot of the time, so it kind of frees me up to actually when we are actually shooting the film. But the thing about being a producer when you're a writer and a director is that there's no kind of, sometimes on a film set you kind of have this thing between the crew versus the producers or there's this separation that can go on. Whereas I'm, as a producer and actually the filmmaker, you kind of are working for yourself, you know. So I don't want to put the crew and the actors through pain or hardship unnecessarily. And so and I don't know, and I'm a crew member as well, so I don't want to put myself through that kind of hardship. So I think it creates an atmosphere on set where I mean, Simon's a producer on it too, aren't you? Yeah. So we're all invested in making this thing. So and we're always aware of budget and scheduling. And I don't like to work overtime. So Simon likes to work quickly and get things done and move on. And so it was, I mean, having that as a base where the creatives are actually involved in the production side. I mean, the producing side. I think it makes the whole thing very, very different to a lot of other projects, a lot of other films.
Yeah, I think that was me, Lee, but thank you both again for taking the time to speak with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Can you